Watching 13 News, Kansas News Leader.
Continuing our conversation with Marilynn Ault and Sharon Sullivan, who both are advocates when it comes to anti-domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking services that we have in our area, largely thanks to the efforts that the two of you have been so heavily involved in over the years. But Marilynn, you said there's one kind of piece of the puzzle that remains. So you have the services in place for the victims now. What do we need to do to stop the cycle?
Yeah, well, what are we doing to prevent people or help people not become an abuser? What is it that we're missing? In the batters intervention that we did back in the day, we would ask, there was one, we would sort of take an idea or a feeling or and talk about that for part of the time. And whenever it came up with respect and we ask, who in your life have you most respected? Almost 100% of the time it was their mother. And yet when they married or were living with somebody who was female and even having their children, he may have seen abuse against his mother or not, then he was being abusive to her. And so we'd say, well, you know, how
where does that disconnect come?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Such a tough question and something that we still have a challenge on, because especially when we talk about human trafficking, there is a lot more awareness around it today, Sharon. Mm-hmm. But yet it still happens. We reported an arrest here just about a week ago on a situation.
Yeah, and to follow up on Marilynn's point, we absolutely need to address sex buyers. If there's no buyers, I mean, it's a basic business. If there's no buyers, there's no need to supply people to be purchased. So when it comes to sex trafficking, that's a pretty easy answer. Of course, when we start looking at labor trafficking, we're all complicit in that, right? We all buy things that are made by people who are enslaved. And so that's a much bigger conversation that we're talking about.
But even all of these issues are complicated conversations, because it's not just we've talked about this over the years with WTF, now CSE. Well, why doesn't the woman just leave? It's a lot more complicated than that. And then same with human trafficking. Well, why don't they just leave? Then what? So where do we get to then? And I'm wondering, has there been any pushback as you tried to get these services started, as you tried to start the conversations? You
know, we were talking once with those of us that were doing the business, and we were talking about how can we make some difference legislatively. And somebody brought up, you know, with domestic violence, the law then was, if law enforcement came to a home and they saw something that was against the law, it read, if there's you know, evidence, you may arrest.
May
and
arrest.
It was like, wait a minute,
what about not will arrest
or must arrest? And what if we went to legislators and talked to them about that? Would we have any? I don't think so, but let's try it. It passed just like that. So if you've seen a crime and you know, this has happened, you get lots of evidence, then arrest them. They may not have to do much time, or there may not be huge consequences, but it's a message of, you don't do this. This is illegal.
And what about for human trafficking? Where are we at in that legislative continuum?
We still have more work to do. I think that we are slowly starting to make some progress. One of the things that the Human Trafficking Advisory Board has recommended increasing sex buying to a felony instead of a misdemeanor. So I don't know if that's really going to happen or not, but it's something that would at least, I mean, I think we have to work on this on multiple levels. And when you say that buying sex is only a misdemeanor, it tells our community that it's not very meaningful. So I think on a community level, we have to help people understand the harms of human trafficking. And then at the macro level, of course, then we need to change the legislation to make sure that people can get justice.
Our time is winding down, but quick final thoughts, message to the next generation of young ladies to know that this is wrong and they don't have to be victims.
Yeah, you deserve to be happy. People who love you want the best for you, and
Marilynn?
They don't put you down.
Yeah, Marilynn?
And that you keep needing to focus on that. I mean, just be very clear about who you want to be with. If there are signals early on that something's amiss or there will be violence, you need to figure out how to get out of that.
Well, we will have the link to your legacy, the Center for Safety
Yes.
and Empowerment, on WIBW.com. Marilynn,
Thank
Sharon,
you.
thank you so very much. We appreciate all
Yeah.
the work you've done for decades on this issue.
Thank you for having us.
We're going to take a look at what that forecast has in store. Some rain's in the picture. Find out when next.